Everybody wants to be a leader until it's time to do what leaders really do. The problem is, too many people think leadership is about talking, about giving commands, about being in charge. But let me tell you something. Your team, your family, your community, they don't need another voice telling them what to do. They need a living example of what it looks like. They need to see somebody who doesn't just say the words, but embodies them. Leadership is not about talking. Leadership is about walking. And the reality is the most powerful leaders are the ones who show up every single day and live the standard they expect from everybody else. You can't tell people to be disciplined if you're the one hitting the snooze button every morning. You can't demand commitment if you're the one showing up late, giving half effort, and making excuses. People don't follow instructions. They follow example. Say follow example. They follow the energy, the consistency, the fire that they see in you. If you want them to give 100%, you got to show them what 100% looks like. That's why the greatest leaders are always the hardest workers in the room. They don't ask anybody to do something they wouldn't do themselves. They earn respect not by talking about it, but by proving it through action. I remember when I was grinding through school, getting that degree after dropping out of high school. I couldn't inspire anybody with empty words, because words don't pay tuition. Words don't pass exams. Words don't get you across the stage. What spoke the loudest was me putting in the work. Late nights, early mornings, studying when I wanted to sleep. Staying disciplined when I felt like giving up. That example spoke louder than anything I could ever say. And that's the same principle with leadership. The actions you take every single day are the loudest sermon you will ever preach. Here's the truth. People are watching you even when you don't realize it. Your kids are watching. Your teammates are watching. Your co-workers, your friends, even strangers. They're observing how you carry yourself, how you react under pressure, how you handle success, and how you deal with failure. And the way you live is silently teaching them what leadership looks like. If you're careless, they'll be careless. If you're inconsistent, they'll be inconsistent. But if you're relentless, if you're focused, if you're disciplined, they'll feel the energy and they'll rise to the standard you set. That's why leading by example is not negotiable. You don't get to turn leadership on and off depending on how you feel. Leadership is a lifestyle. You have to live it in private before you can ever expect it to show in public. If you want to build a culture of accountability, you have to hold yourself accountable first. If you want to see excellence, you've got to commit to excellence first. Because the truth is, people might not always do what you tell them, but they will almost always do what you show them. Think about some of the greatest leaders in history. They weren't respected because they had the fanciest speeches or the highest position. They were respected because they lived their values. They suffered alongside their people. They sacrificed when nobody was watching. They modeled resilience, courage, integrity, and service. And because they set the standard with their actions, people followed them willingly. They didn't need to demand loyalty. They earned it. When you lead by example, you eliminate excuses. When your team sees you showing up early, staying late, giving maximum effort, they can't say it's impossible. When your family sees you making sacrifices, they can't say it can't be done. Your actions become a mirror that reflects back to others what is truly possible. And that kind of leadership doesn't just change the people around you, it transforms the environment. It creates a culture where everyone feels challenged to rise higher because they see the bar you set with your own life. Now, don't get it twisted. Leading by example isn't easy. It requires consistency when nobody is clapping for you. It requires sacrifice when nobody notices. It requires you to keep your word even when it's inconvenient. But that's the price of leadership. You can't cut corners, you can't fake it. Because people can smell inconsistency a mile away. They might not always say it, but they're watching. And if your words don't line up with your actions, you'll lose credibility. Once you lose that, it doesn't matter how loud you shout. Nobody's following. So every day you gotta ask yourself, am I showing the people around me what greatness looks like? Am I living in a way that inspires them to push harder? Am I embodying the standard I expect from others? Because if the answer is no, you don't need to change your words. You need to change your actions. Everybody wants to sit at the top, but very few are willing to serve at the bottom first. The truth is, Real leadership is not about position. It's about posture. It's about your heart. It's about being willing to roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty before you ever ask anybody else to do it. Too many people want the crown without carrying the cross. They want the glory without the grind. But the greatest leaders the world has ever seen didn't start by demanding respect. They earned it by serving. See, when you serve people, you build a connection with them that no title, no authority, no paycheck can buy. When you sacrifice your time, your energy, your effort for the good of somebody else, they remember that, they feel that. Service is the secret ingredient that makes people want to follow you, not because they have to, but because they want to. You can order people around for a while, but that kind of leadership doesn't last. People will follow you out of obligation, but they won't give you their heart. When you serve them, you earn both their hands and their hearts. And their hearts, and that's what transforms a group into a movement. Serving before you command is about showing people that you are not above them, you are with them. It's about proving that their success matters just as much as yours. If you're a coach, it means you pick up the cones after practice. If you're a boss, it means you're willing to get in the trenches when the work gets tough. If you're a parent, it means you don't just give orders. You model patience, sacrifice, and love through your actions. The most powerful leaders are the ones who don't just sit on the throne. They kneel down and wash the feet of the people they lead. That's what builds loyalty that money can't buy. I've seen people try to lead without serving, and it never lasts. They think authority means people will just fall in line. But people can spot a selfish leader from a mile away. And when they realize you're only in it for yourself, they'll do the bare minimum for you. They'll show up, but they won't give their all. They'll listen, but they won't buy in. But when they know you genuinely care, when they've seen you sacrifice for them, they'll run through a wall for you. They'll go further, dig deeper, and fight harder because they know you're not just using them, you're investing in them. The reason serving is so powerful is because it flips the script. In a world where everybody wants to take, you stand out when you give. In a culture where people chase recognition, you shine when you choose humility. Anybody can stand on a platform and talk, but very few will stoop low and serve. And that's what makes people say, this person is different. This is somebody I can trust. This is somebody I'll follow. Think about the people you respect most. Chances are, they weren't the ones who barked the loudest orders. They were the ones who showed up for you when you needed them. They were the ones who sacrificed their comfort to help you reach your potential. They were the ones who didn't just talk about leadership, but demonstrated it through acts of service. And that's the kind of leader the world desperately needs right now. But let me be real with you. Serving requires humility. It requires you to put your ego aside. It requires you to stop asking, what can I get? And start asking, what can I give? And that's hard because we're wired to think leadership is about perks, not price. But if you want to be great, you got to pay the price of service. You got to sacrifice your time when it's inconvenient. You got to go the extra mile when nobody notices. You got to do things that don't get posted, don't get applauded, don't get recognized. Because true service isn't about being seen. It's about making sure others are lifted up. When you lead this way, something incredible happens. You create a culture of service. Your example becomes contagious. People see you sacrificing, and it challenges them to do the same. They see you giving, and it pushes them to give more. Before you know it, your whole team, your whole family, your whole community starts operating differently, not because you demanded it, but because you modeled it. That's the kind of ripple effect that changes lives, that builds organizations that last, that turns ordinary groups into extraordinary legacies. So if you want to be a leader that people follow with their whole heart, start by serving. Put their needs before your ego. Show up when it doesn't benefit you. Carry the load when nobody else wants to. Sacrifice so they can succeed. And watch how that act of humility transforms the way people see you, the way they trust you, the way they trust you, the way they follow you. Because in the end, leadership is not about how high you climb. It's about how many people you lift while you're climbing. And the only way to truly lift others is by serving them first. The difference between a leader and everybody else's vision, most people only see what's right in front of them. They see the bills, the problems, the deadlines, the distractions. They live for the weekend. They live for the next paycheck. They live for the next temporary escape. But a leader, listen to me, sees further. A leader sees the future before it arrives. A leader sees potential when others only see problems. A leader paints a picture so big, so clear, so inspiring that people are willing to give everything they have just to be a part of it. If your vision is only about you, it's too small. If your dream doesn't stretch beyond your own comfort, it's not leadership, it's selfish ambition. Real leaders dream dreams that bless others, that elevate others, that build something bigger than their own name. When you look at the greatest leaders in history, what made people follow them was not just their talent, not just their charisma, but their vision. They could see something nobody else could see. They could describe a world that didn't yet exist, but made you believe it could. They could look at brokenness and still declare that wholeness was possible. That's what leaders do. They give people a picture of the future worth fighting for. Without vision, people wander. Without vision, people quit. Without vision, people settle. But with vision, even ordinary men and women find strength to do extraordinary things. I tell people all the time, stop thinking so small. Stop making your dreams about a car, a house, a title, or a vacation. That's not leadership. That's consumption. A leader wakes up and says, how can my life make the world better? How can I use my gifts to build something that outlives me? How can I inspire people who come after me to dream even bigger than I did? Because vision isn't just about today. It's about tomorrow. It's about legacy. It's about planting seeds in soil you may never touch, but believing that somebody else will eat from the fruit of what you planted. Vision requires you to see what others can and believe what others doubt. When you walk into a room, some people see problems. You've got to see solutions. Some people see obstacles. You've got to see opportunities. Some people see darkness. You've got to see light. And when you share that vision with conviction, it starts to pull people out of their despair. It gives them something to hold on to when everything around them says quit. That's why vision is so powerful. It becomes the fuel that keeps people moving forward, even when the journey is hard. But here's the thing about vision. It has to be bigger than you. If your dream only benefits you, nobody else will care about it. People don't want to build your empire, but they will fight with you to build something that gives meaning to their lives too. When your vision includes others, when it creates room for their gifts, their dreams, their growth, that's when you start to see buy-in. That's when people don't just show up for a paycheck. They show up with passion. They show up with commitment. They show up with ownership because they see themselves inside the picture you painted. And don't get it twisted. Having a vision doesn't mean it's going to be easy. In fact, the bigger your vision, the more resistance you'll face. People will doubt you. They'll tell you it's impossible. They'll try to box you in. But a real leader doesn't let the voices of doubt shrink the vision. A real leader holds on to the vision even when nobody else sees it yet. Because that's the test of leadership. Can you keep believing, keep moving, keep speaking life into a future that hasn't arrived yet? That's what separates visionaries from ordinary thinkers. When I was chasing my dream of becoming a speaker, people laughed. They told me there wasn't a future in it. They told me I couldn't make a living motivating people. But I had a vision. I saw myself speaking to millions, changing lives, traveling the world, impacting generations. And I held on to that vision when I was homeless, when I was broke, when I was overlooked. That vision pulled me through the darkest seasons of my life. And not because I believed in it. Because I kept chasing it, other people can see it too. That's what vision does. It becomes a light, not only for you, but for everyone walking with you. You got to get to a place where your vision scares you a little, because if it doesn't stretch you, it won't inspire anybody else. If it's comfortable, it's not big enough. People don't rally behind safe visions. They rally behind bold ones. They rally behind leaders who dare to say, I know it looks impossible, but watch what we're about to build. Watch how we're about to change lives. Watch how we're about to make history. That's the kind of vision that ignites a fire in people. That's the kind of vision that makes people wake up early and stay up late. That's the kind of vision that changes the world. One of the most overlooked qualities of a great leader is the ability to communicate. It's not enough to just have a dream. It's not enough to have fire inside of you. If you can't communicate that vision in a way that makes people feel it, then it dies with you. People can't follow what they don't understand. They can't buy into what they don't feel. That's why communication is so critical, because it's the bridge between your vision and their action. When you open your mouth as a leader, your words should not just inform people, they should inspire people. They should ignite something in them that makes them want to move, to sacrifice for the bigger picture. You've got to understand, people don't follow a monotone instruction. They follow conviction. They follow energy. They follow authenticity. When you speak, they're not just listening to your words. They're listening to your heart. They're paying attention to your tone, your body language, your passion. If you're half-hearted, they'll be half-hearted. If you're all in, they'll go all in with you. Your words have the power to either give life or drain. So every time you open your mouth, you gotta ask yourself, am I speaking life or am I speaking confusion? Am I building confidence or am I tearing it down? Great leaders know how to take complicated ideas and make them simple. They don't confuse people with fancy vocabulary or overwhelming details. They strip it down to the essence so anybody can understand it. If your team can't repeat back what you said, you didn't communicate clearly. It's not about sounding smart, it's about being understood. The greatest communicators have the ability to speak in a way that a child can understand, but with the kind of depth that makes the most experienced person nod their head. That's power. And let's be real. It's not just about what you say, it's about how you say it. You can have the right message, but if the delivery is weak, the message gets lost. When you speak, you have to bring energy. You have to bring emotion. You have to bring urgency. People should feel your words in their soul. They should walk away saying, I don't just know what to do. I want to do it. That's the difference between talking and communicating. Talking fills the air. Communicating moves the heart. The reason communication is so important in leadership is because it sets the tone. When things are going well, your words reinforce confidence. When things are falling apart, your words bring calm and direction. If you panic, if you speak doubt, they lose hope. But if you speak clarity, if you speak courage, if you remind them of the vision, they will find strength even in chaos. That's why leaders can't afford to be careless with their words. Words are seeds, and every seed grows into something, either weeds or fruit. I've seen leaders lose trust because they couldn't communicate. They had good intentions, but their words were sloppy. They left people confused. They said one thing and meant another. And when people don't know what you mean, they'll fill in the blanks with assumptions. That's dangerous. Clarity eliminates confusion. Clarity brings alignment. When people know exactly what you mean and why it matters, they can lock in and move in the same direction with you. Without that clarity, you've got chaos. Look, leadership is not about doing everything yourself. It's about getting people to move together as one. The only way you can do that is through communication. Think about an orchestra. Every musician has an instrument. Every musician has talent. But without a conductor communicating through his movements, it's just noise. The conductor doesn't play a single instrument, but his communication creates harmony. That's what leadership is like. You don't have to play every role, but your communication sets the rhythm, the timing, the energy of the group. And don't miss this, communication is not just about speaking, it's about listening. The great leader doesn't just give directions, they pay attention to the people they're leading. If people feel like you don't hear them, they won't hear you. Respect is built when people know their voice matters. And when they feel heard, they'll listen to you with more openness, more trust, and more commitment. When you think about the leaders who made the biggest impact in history, many of them were not the richest, the most educated, or the most powerful by position. They were the best communicators. They knew how to touch the human soul with words. They knew how to use their voice to unite people who had nothing in common and point them toward a common goal. They used words to inspire courage in the face of fear, hope in the face of despair, action in the face of doubt. That's why communication is not optional for leadership. It's essential. You don't need to be perfect with grammar or flawless with delivery. You don't need $1 million vocabulary. What you need is authenticity. You need conviction. You need clarity. If people know you believe in what you're saying, they'll believe too. If they feel your passion, they'll start to burn with passion too. And if you can take a big, overwhelming dream and break it down into simple steps they can see themselves in, they will follow you anywhere. Because deep down, people don't just want a paycheck, they want purpose. And it's your communication that connects their daily grind to that bigger purpose. So don't underestimate the power of your words. Don't take communication lightly. Your voice has the power to build trust, to align vision, to spark movement. Use it wisely. Speak with clarity. Speak with conviction. Speak with power. And watch how your words can transform not just the direction of your team, but the destiny of everyone you lead. Anybody can celebrate when things go right, but the true test of leadership is what you do when things go wrong. That's when you find out what kind of leader you really are. It's easy to stand tall when the team wins, when the scoreboard looks good, when the numbers are up. But real leadership is about stepping up when the bottom falls out, when the plan fails, when everybody's looking around for someone to blame. A weak leader points fingers. A great leader takes responsibility. Because leadership is not about protecting your image. It's about protecting your people. It's not about grabbing the credit. It's about carrying the weight. Too many people want the spotlight, but not the accountability that comes with it. They want to be praised when it works, but they disappear when it doesn't. That's not leadership. That's selfishness. When you wear the title of leader, you're saying, oh, put it on me. If it succeeds, give the team the credit. If it fails, give me the blame. That's the posture of a true leader. Because when you take responsibility, you build trust. People know you won't throw them under the bus to save yourself. They know you'll stand in front of them and shield them when things get tough. And that kind of trust makes people want to go to battle for you. Leadership is not about collecting trophies. It's about carrying burdens. Think about it. When the ship is sinking, the captain doesn't run off first. He makes sure everyone else is safe before he even thinks about himself. That's what responsibility looks like. It means you don't abandon your people in hard times. You don't pass the blame to make yourself look good. You own it, even if the mistake wasn't yours. You carry it because you're the leader. When you do that, people see your integrity. They see your character. They see that you're not in it for yourself. You're in it for them. Now, don't get it twisted. Taking responsibility doesn't mean you excuse failure. It means you own it so you can fix it. Leaders don't sweep mistakes under the rug. They don't pretend it didn't happen. They acknowledge it, they learn from it, and they lead the way forward. That's what separates average from great. Average leaders avoid blame at all costs. Great leaders embrace responsibility because they know growth only comes from accountability. You can't correct what you won't confront. And if the leader won't own the mistakes, nobody else will either. And here's the flip side. When things go right, a great leader doesn't hog the credit. They shine the light on their team. They make sure everybody knows it wasn't just them, it was the people beside them. They give praise, they show gratitude, they celebrate others. That humility makes people want to give even more. When they know their effort will be recognized, they pour their heart into the mission. But if you're the kind of leader who takes all the glory and leaves none for your people, eventually they'll stop giving you their best because nobody wants to be invisible. Nobody wants to feel like their contribution doesn't matter. One of the quickest ways to lose respect is to take credit for something you didn't do and dodge responsibility for something you did do. People notice they may not say anything in the moment, but they remember. They keep score. And over time, your credibility erodes. You can't fool people forever. But when you consistently take responsibility in the tough times and give away credit in the good times, your people will respect you. They'll trust you. They'll go to war with you because they know you're not just using them to make yourself look good. Taking responsibility also sets the tone for the culture. If the leader is willing to own mistakes, it gives everybody else permission to do the same. Instead of hiding errors or covering up failures, people will start to step forward, admit when they fall short, and work together to improve. That creates a culture of accountability and growth. But if the leader's always dodging blame, the team will do the same. They'll hide, they'll lie, they'll protect their image instead of protecting the mission. And when that happens, progress dies. I remember being in situations where everything went wrong, and I had two choices. blame somebody else, or take it on myself. And every time I chose to take it, something powerful happened. People respected me more. They worked harder. They trusted me deeper. Because when they saw me take the hit, they knew I was serious about the mission, not just about my ego. And when the victory finally came, I gave the credit right back to them. That cycle, owning responsibility and failure and giving credit and success, that's the heartbeat of real leadership. And let me be real with you, this isn't easy. Your pride will fight it. Your ego will scream to protect itself. You'll be tempted to say, it wasn't my fault or I made that happen. But leadership requires humility. One of the biggest mistakes people make in leadership is thinking it's about how many people follow them. They measure success by the size of the crowd, the number of likes, the amount of attention they can attract. But real leadership isn't about building followers. It's about building leaders. It's not about creating people who depend on you. It's about empowering people who can stand on their own. If your leadership dies the moment you step out of the room, you weren't leading, you were babysitting. A true leader multiplies themselves by raising up others to lead. You've got to ask yourself, do you want to be remembered as someone who had fans or as someone who created legacies? Followers clap for you, but leaders continue your work. Followers admire you, but leaders expand what you started. Followers make you feel important, but leaders make sure your impact outlives you. The greatest leaders throughout history weren't the ones who kept all the power for themselves. They were the ones who poured into others, who mentored, who trained, who equipped, who believed in people before those people believed in themselves. That's what it means to be great. You don't just shine, you help others shine too. When you focus on developing leaders, you change the entire culture. Instead of people waiting on you for every decision, they start to think for themselves. Instead of standing still when you're gone, they keep moving forward because they've been empowered. That's what sustainability looks like. That's what legacy looks like. But when you make it all about you, when you hoard the power, when you make yourself the center of everything, you cripple the people you're supposed to be building. You might feel important in the moment, but you're leaving them weaker, not stronger. And here's the truth. Developing leaders is not easy. It requires patience. It requires humility. It requires you to invest your time and your energy into people who may not always get it right at first. You have to allow room for mistakes, for growth, for failure, because that's how leaders are made. You can't micromanage people into leadership. You have to trust them enough to let them try, to let them struggle, to let them find their voice. And that takes courage, because it means letting go of control. When you invest in people, you unlock potential you didn't even know was there. You discover talents, strengths, and perspectives that can take the vision further than you ever could alone. Think about a great coach. The best coaches aren't the ones who build teams that collapse the moment they retire. The best coaches leave behind a system, a culture, and a generation of players who keep winning long after they're gone. They don't just build followers of their system. They build leaders who can carry the torch forward. And that's what every true leader should aim for. When you're gone, will the work stop? Or will it expand because you invested in people who are ready to take it further? The beautiful thing about creating leaders is that it multiplies impact. One leader can change a room. 10 leaders can change a city. 1,000 leaders can change the world. That's why it's so critical not to waste your influence by keeping it to yourself. Leadership is not meant to be stored. It's meant to be shared. And the more you share, the stronger it becomes. I know it feels good to be the one everybody looks up to. No, it feeds the ego to hear people call your name, to see the spotlight shine on you. But hear me closely. That spotlight dies with you if you don't hand the torch to someone else. The goal isn't to be the brightest light in the room. The goal is to light so many other candles that the whole room glows. That's when you know you're leading. When you look around and you're not the only one carrying the weight, not the only one speaking life, not the only one pushing the vision forward. Now you've created a movement. And let me be clear. Developing leaders doesn't mean you stop leading. It means you lead differently. You lead by teaching, by mentoring, by modeling what it looks like to step up. You don't just say, do what I say. You say, watch how I do it then try it for yourself. You encourage them when they stumble. You correct them with love. You give them opportunities to grow. And most importantly, you believe in them even before they believe in themselves. Because every great leader at some point had somebody who looked them in the eye and said, "You've got what it takes." You don't have to be perfect to build leaders. You just have to be intentional. You just have to be willing to pour into people. You just have to care enough to see their potential instead of only focusing on your own